And I have to tell you directly and personally that I regret voting for you for Secretary of State.
Well, first of all, your regret for voting for me confirms I'm doing a good job. We deported gang members, including the one you had a margarita with. And that guy is a human trafficker, and that guy is a gangbanger, and the evidence is going to be clear in the days to come.
Secretary Rubio should take that testimony to the federal court of the United States because he hasn't done it under oath.
Wow, that would have been something else. Secretary of State Marco Rubio firing back at Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen had a heated exchange, and not just once, before the Foreign Relations Committee. It was supposed to be a hearing on the State Department budget, Van Hollen driving it off the rails. Secretary Rubio back on the Hill today for a hearing focused on protecting American interests. Guy Benson's got some thoughts on this, host of the Guy Benson radio show on Fox News Radio. And we got another clip here. Why don't we go ahead and roll this too? So there's another clip with Tim Kaine, Democratic senator. And he got into the whole back and forth about South African refugees coming to the United States. Watch.
We have a different standard based upon the color of somebody's skin. Would that be acceptable?
Well, I'm not the one arguing that. Apparently you are, because you don't like the fact that they're white, and that's why they're coming.
I'm just asking you to say that would be unacceptable.
Well, no,
that
I would say that the United States,
a very easy thing to say.
The United States has a right to pick and choose who they allow into the United States.
Even based on the color of somebody's skin.
No one's, you're the one that's talking about the color of their skin, not me. These are people whose farms were being burned down and they were killed because of the color of their skin.
He can spar, Guy. We get anywhere with that?
Yeah, it was spicy. On the Kaine point, it was interesting because Rubio threw it right back at him, the racial double standard that was being alleged. And whatever you think of the situation in South Africa, there are people being discriminated against and murdered. Small number of them led into the country, and Kaine's very angry about that. And at one point, a little bit later on in that exchange, he was lamenting the fact that these people have an expedited or easier path into the country. And with all due respect to Senator Kaine, it is really hard to take that sort of hand-wringing from someone who is actively complicit in 10 million illegal border crossings after the last 4 years. They're screaming, literally, at Secretary Rubio about whether or not a legal pathway for victims of persecution is too lenient when they were fine with 10 million lawless illegal border crossings over 4 years. It's really tough to sit here and listen to those types of lectures.
Well, I was going to say, to add on to that, it's tough to listen to them and take their concerns seriously when, you know, they had nothing to say and no regrets over Secretary of State Antony Blinken after the Afghan withdrawal. And we lost service members over that and never heard anything like what we heard in this with Marco Rubio, who held his own pretty well. Why would they now try to attach themselves onto this, you know, topic? Illegal immigrants, especially that guy that Van Hollen went down to El Salvador to go see, that we wound up finding out all sorts of things about him. I mean, it doesn't seem like a winning message.
Yeah, politics, I think, very much at play. Hypocrisy is often embedded in politics. I think Van Hollen is putting on a show for his base. The base does love this. The wider public, rather, does not. Here's one other one, though, Aisha, because if we're talking about people getting agitated over one thing but not another, Kilmar Abrego Garcia is the man that you just referenced. And you heard Van Hollen, once again, getting his dander up, taking umbrage at the way that Rubio, I think, accurately characterized his criminal record, Abrego Garcia's criminal record. Van Hollen, a senator from Maryland, that's the same guy who could not be bothered to reach out to the family of Rachel Morin, a U.S. citizen from Maryland who was brutally murdered by an illegal immigrant in Maryland. And so he could go all the way to El Salvador to stand in solidarity with Mr. Garcia, who has quite a series of credible allegations against him, some of which have been adjudicated, by the way. And yet it was like a little statement he put out from his office when Rachel Morin was murdered. I think a lot of Americans look back and consider those two side by side, and it's not a good look for Senator Van Hollen in spite of his theatrics yesterday.
All right, just in case you missed the back and forth a moment ago, what Rubio says is that guy's a human trafficker. All right, it's going to be clear in the days to come based on the evidence. So we'll see how that develops. Guy, thanks for coming on. Nice to see you. We will hear you on radio. Guy Benson, thanks.
Thank you, Guy.
Thank you, Bill.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.